It's the 20th of January 2015, and ESO photo ambassador Petra Horowlek is capturing the beauty of the Milky Way at the Lucia Observatory. Suddenly, a series of short-lived flashes of red light appear out of nowhere above the horizon. At the same time, almost 600 kilometers away from Lucia, a cluster of massive thunderstorms is raging over northern Argentina. Pointing his camera in the direction of the flashes, Petra photographs the very rare and peculiar features known as red sprites. This makes him peculiar features known as red sprites. This makes him one of a small group of people to successfully record them, and it's the first time that they have been captured from a major astronomical observatory. A week later, Petra travels further north to photograph the night skies above ESO's Paranal Observatory. Just a few hours before daybreak, he once again witnesses a flurry of these strange flashes over the Andes. From Petra's perspective, they appear to come from the direction of the rising galactic bulge of the Milky Way. They appear to come from the direction of the rising galactic bulge of the Milky Way. They appear to come from the direction of the rising galactic bulge of the Milky Way. They appear to come from the direction of the rising galactic bulge of the Milky Way. But they actually originate from another huge complex of storms over Argentina, more than 600 kilometers from Paranal. The storms are so strong that Petra can observe and document another display of their activity. High in the atmosphere, gravity waves are generated by these storms and form ripples in the greenish layer of air glow. But what are these curious airy spirits? Red figures composed of beads, puffs, and tendrils of light. These unusual flashes are formed at altitudes of up to 90 kilometers and get their distinct red hue from the excited nitrogen molecules in the atmosphere. Red sprites were first suggested on theoretical grounds in 1925 by the Scottish physicist Charles Wilson. But it wasn't until 1989 that scientists from the University of Minnesota managed to capture the first image of a sprite on film as they were photographing aurorae. And just a few years later, the NASA Compton Gamma Ray Observatory managed to discover gamma bursts originating above thunderstorms, another consequence of lower atmospheric lightning activity. Astronauts have a particularly good vantage point from space, and have also photographed sprites using normal digital cameras. From space, sprites appear shortly after their corresponding lightning strike. In this image taken from space, both the sprite and the lightning flash are captured. There are many different species of high-altitude atmospheric flashes on Earth, commonly known as upper atmospheric lightning. Scientists have even speculated that similar phenomena could occur on other planets in the solar system. Red sprites might be the most frequently photographed upper atmospheric lightning phenomena on Earth, but they can appear rather dim when captured on camera. Furthermore, the exact time and location of their appearance in the sky is quite unpredictable. They had been found to show up over powerful and large thunderstorms, but only for a fraction of a second. These factors make them very hard to document and study. Red sprites remain mysterious, and any new image showing them is valuable to scientists trying to study these elusive spirits that dance above thunderstorms.
So what happened to the approaching solar storm, which forecasters had warned would directly hit Earth? Testing of the CME by the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, it was estimated to arrive on the afternoon of March 23rd. Models revealed the shape and the evolution of the coronal mass ejection as it expanded out into space, indicating that it would be a direct hit on the Earth. A direct hit of this magnitude on the Earth's magnetic field would initiate intense geomagnetic activity, producing intense auroral displays. News spread online and across media outlets that a big geomagnetic storm was about to hit the planet that would light up the sky over New York City and Chicago. But as it turned out, March 23rd came and went with no sign of the CME. Geomagnetic activity was registering near zero, and the spectacle did not materialize as originally forecast. On March 24th, which would be the following day of its forecast arrival time, the instruments on board of the NASA Discover satellite began to register the arrival of the CME. But even after its arrival, nothing spectacular seemed to happen. No auroras and no communication disruptions. For some unknown reason, the CME slowed just enough during its journey towards Earth that it produced only a minimal effect on our planet. Space weather forecasting is not always accurate and requires precise analysis in order to better inform the public regarding incoming geomagnetic storms and the severity of its impact. The Solar Dynamics Observatory can capture solar flares, and it can show us a coronal mass ejection just as it is leaving the sun's surface. Additionally, the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory can take images that show us how that CME is moving through space around the sun and giving us an estimate of its initial density and speed. Afterwards, it will take about 3 days to get further information because it normally takes that long for the CME to reach the Discover satellite that is located directly in front of the sun, some 1 million miles from the Earth. If the computer models are off even by a small percentage,
Hey everybody, this is Mike with On Point Preparedness. I haven't done a really good conspiracy video for you all in a while, and this one's not going to disappoint. For some reason, there are electrical transformers blowing up all around the world. The majority of them happening just in this month, January 2019, but several others back from September of 2018. The most notable one was published all around mainstream media. This was on December 28th of 2018 around Queens, New York, when literally all of New York was able to see the nighttime sky glow blue. The next one here just happened today or yesterday in Crossville, Tennessee. It's actually quite interesting. The lady that is recording this says the end is nigh, and you can see why. Another one here, it's pretty spectacular video footage. This is in Sao Paulo, Brazil, around January 5th, 2019. This video is probably one of the craziest. It's from Venezuela, sometime late August into early September.
Oh my God, Maracaibo, Silu, señores. Oh, allá está, pues listo, Maracaibo, Silu, vamos. Marico. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow. Oh my God. Espérale, lo mismo. Oh my God, marico. Dios. Wow.
Coming back around to January 2019, this is in Mexico City, I believe on January 13th, 2019. So again, when I started seeing these happen around fall of last year, it was definitely interesting and definitely got the attention of mainstream media. I just sort of tucked it in the back of my pocket, but then again, just this January, just newsfeed after newsfeed after newsfeed. A lot of them just local reporters or bloggers or people with their cell phones, just major transformers blowing up, and you have to wonder, is there something else going on here? So I got just a couple of theories. Not really sure if this is all just happenstance. To me, with how many that have blown up just in January alone, it does not seem so. But check this out. Here's an article from RT. It says this bank called Saxo is predicting massive solar flares to bring chaos and inflict $2 trillion in damage in 2019. Now, this bank has been known for having these outrageous predictions every December, so I'm not really sure about their credibility. I didn't look into them that much, but here's what the analyst said about this potential incident happening in 2019.
One of my outrageous predictions for 2019 is that we see a solar storm striking North America and inflicting some $2 trillion of damage to infrastructure and satellites.
Now, about this,
a solar storm striking North America and inflicting some $2 trillion of damage to infrastructure and satellites. One of my outrageous predictions for 2019 is that we see a solar storm striking North America and inflicting some $2 trillion of damage to infrastructure and satellites. Is that we see a solar storm striking North America and inflicting some $2 trillion of damage to infrastructure and satellites. Outrageous predictions for 2019 is that we see a solar storm striking North America and inflicting some $2 trillion of damage to infrastructure and satellites. Outrageous predictions for 2019 is that we see a solar storm striking North America and inflicting some $2 trillion of damage to infrastructure and satellites. Outrageous predictions for 2019.
Okay, guys, so the first clip, it was from Science Clip, yeah. It's a channel. I recommend you to see it all. The second, that in which it was talking about the solar storm announced for 23rd of March. He's from Skywatch Media. I recommend you as well to see it entirely. Now this guy on point preparedness. Now let's stop a little bit here, yeah? This guy, it's John Hardy, yeah? Head of FX Strategy Saxo Bank Group. Now, until now, I didn't knew that these bankers have also diploma in physics. Maybe this is the case with this guy, yeah? Otherwise, a banker to warn the people about a geomagnetic storm hitting the earth, this year and provoke this kind of losses, it's quite strange, I would say. But let's go further.
19 is that we see a solar storm striking North America and inflicting some $2 trillion of damage to infrastructure and satellites.
Now, about this theory that a solar storm, solar flare, similar to the, I believe it's 1859 Carrington event, that would happen, and maybe that's the reason why a lot of these transformers are blowing up. I'm really not sure whether to believe that or not, simply because I've done a lot of research with scientist John Casey in the past. He's a scientist who said that the sun is definitively going into a 230-year minimum period where it doesn't have many solar flares, doesn't have many sunspots, and that the Earth would be cooling. So far, his research is spot on, and a lot of scientists are catching on that the sun is eerily dormant, and we are seeing cooler temperatures. We are seeing an increase of earthquakes, an increase of volcanoes, all things that John Casey had predicted nearly a decade ago, and thankfully I was able to have him on my channel to discuss these things back in 2015 and 2016. You can see both of those interviews in the YouTube description box if you prefer. So I'm really not sure what to make of it, but it's definitely a probable theory. Now, another news story that's been big in the news over the past couple of weeks is how our magnetic poles are shifting quite dramatically. Our poles shift, and there's a program that accounts for this, but it actually needed an emergency update because of how fast it's been changing.
Okay, so you heard this guy, yeah? Now, all the scientists are saying that the sun it's entered in the solar minimum, yeah? Activity. So, how come a banker and Noah start to warn people about the geomagnetic storm, yeah? What is going on with this? Now, I've told you what I believe about Parker Solar Probe, that it was sent up to observe Nibiru. Now, when you observe Nibiru and you want to catch Nibiru, what are you gonna catch before? You're gonna catch some asteroids coming towards Earth, yeah? Then you're gonna come up with these stories like that Gold 4678, which it's also documented on Skywatch Media. So they said two asteroids collided on the Kuiper Belt, and one of them developed a tail. Yeah. And I told you what I believe. I believe that we're gonna see more often the webcams and the Soho, as you have seen, it's gonna capture more often Nibiru. So that's why they invented these asteroids who developed a tail, yeah? Because it's very easy to say it's not Nibiru, it's the tail of new asteroid with tail, Gold 4678, yes? Now with this Parker Solar Probe, let's have some fun first and then go to the serious business.
People around the world look up and see our sun every day. But through a space telescope, it looks nothing like it does from down on the ground. The surface dances with arches of solar material that reach up into the solar atmosphere, an environment of charged particles and magnetic fields unlike anything we experience on Earth. In 2018, the Parker Solar Probe will launch from a Delta IV Heavy rocket and travel approximately 3 months to take its first swing by the sun right through that atmosphere. Over 7 years, it will get ever closer until ultimately it's within 3.9 million miles or 6.2 million kilometers of the sun's surface. That's so close that the previous record holder, the Helios B spacecraft, was 7 times farther away. An important objective of the Parker Solar Probe is to learn more about the solar wind, an exotic stew of magnetic forces, plasma, and particles. It interacts with planetary magnetospheres and atmospheres, which over the eons may have contributed to a planet's habitability. It blankets our spacecraft and astronauts traveling to the moon and Mars, and atmospheres, which over the eons may have contributed to particles. It interacts with planetary magnetospheres and atmospheres, which over the eons may have contributed to a planet's habitability. With planetary magnetospheres and atmospheres, which over the eons may have contributed to a planet's habitability. And atmospheres, which over the eons may have contributed to a planet's habitability. It interacts with planetary magnetospheres and atmospheres, which over the eons may have contributed to a planet's habitability. It interacts with planetary magnetospheres and atmospheres, which over the eons may have contributed to a planet's habitability. It blankets our spacecraft and astronauts traveling to the moon and Mars, and its habitability. It blankets our spacecraft and astronauts traveling to the moon and Mars, not traveling to the moon and Mars, not traveling to the moon and Mars, not traveling to the moon and Mars. It blankets our spacecraft and astronauts traveling to the moon and Mars, blankets our spacecraft and astronauts traveling to the moon and Mars, blankets our spacecraft and astronauts traveling to the moon and Mars.
This is the funny part, yeah? First of all, they don't care anymore. So you see the flag in the wind. The wind, which wind, you will ask? The wind from the moon. Oh, there is no wind there. It should be the solar winds. The solar winds move the flag, yeah? And furthermore,
it blankets our space.
You will see here
astronaut
the shining of the cable in the studio where they made this movie, because no man set foot on the moon. Yeah? Who said this? The guy that's supposed to be there. His name is Buzz Aldrin, yeah? He had a discussion with a young girl, 9 years old girl, and he told her, we never been to the moon, yeah? Try to find the clip, it's on the internet. But I like this, you know? I like because they don't care. They know already that a lie which is told over and over again will become truth. People will believe it. Now let's go to the serious business here. It's about equipment that the Parker Solar Probe has on board. Let's listen for what?
An experiment which looks at energetic particles over a broad range of energies, from tens of thousands of electron volts up to about 100 million electron volts. The ESIS instrument is based on solid-state detectors. Those are detectors that when a particle passes through them, energy is deposited, and you can measure that energy, and you can measure that the particle has actually passed through. So there's the solar wind, which is this continuous flow of lower energy particles. And then there are much more sporadic and episodic events like solar flares that spew out great numbers of these much more energetic particles. In our higher energy instrument, we have a whole set of layers of these detectors. And when a particle passes through those layers, it leaves energy in each and every one of those detectors. Those detectors are also segmented in pieces like a pie. And so when a particle comes through from a particular direction, you can tell both the direction the particle came through at, and you can tell the energy and species of that particle. So when a particle comes through from a particular direction, you can tell both the direction the particle came through at, and you can tell the energy and species of that particle. So when a particle comes through from a particular direction, you can tell both the direction the particle came through at, and you can tell the energy and species of that particle. So when a particle comes through from a particular direction, you can tell both the direction the particle came through at, and you can tell the energy and species of that particle by looking at all the different energy depositions. In our lower energy instrument, we also have the same sort of solid-state detectors, but in addition to that, we use an extra trick, which is when a particle passes through a very thin foil, it ejects an electron. We're able to detect that, and that gives us the start timing for the particles. One of the big issues for ESIS is to understand the difference between solar energetic particles that just come from the sun with a certain energy and those that are energized in interplanetary space as they move outward. By the time they get out to the Earth's orbit, that's all so messed up, mangled up, that it's kind of hard to tell the difference between those. But as we get in closer and closer to the sun, we'll be able to differentiate those two types of sources, which will be really important for understanding the fundamentals of energetic particles in the solar system. By going in close and measuring the detailed distributions of these energetic particles, their energies, directions, and their species, we're going to learn things that we couldn't possibly learn by looking forever from a remote distance. And by understanding our sun in detail, we can understand lots of other stars in much greater detail. Of these energetic particles, their energies, directions, detailed distributions of these energetic particles, their energies, detailed distributions of these energetic particles, detailed distributions of these energetic particles, detailed distributions of these energetic particles, their energies, directions, and their species, we're going to learn things that we couldn't possibly particles, their energies, directions, and their species, particles, their energies, directions, and their species, particles, their energies, directions, and their species, we're going to
Okay, so they have this ISIS instrument, yeah? You heard that, right? Which is able to determine the direction of energized particles which are coming from the sun, which are coming from another source. The other source, I told you before, I believe, is Nibiru. Now, Nibiru's system is already in our solar system. Why? Because we will not see what we see on the sky all the time, yeah? Now, here is another problem. We have a big problem. Let's get back to what they were saying about this red sprite, yeah? Now they said the red sprite, it occurs in the thunderstorms, yeah? Now, we have a problem with this, and it's correlated with the lightnings, yeah? We have a big problem with this because I've showed you that blue city, yeah? Atrani, Divina Costiere. Now, if you have the curiosity and you want to see this, go on Skywatch on Skyline webcams and surf a little bit, and you're gonna find at sunrise and sometimes at sunset, because I will show you this build up of blue, intense blue color. Now, in addition to this, you're gonna see like a very thin layer. You have the impression it's snowing. And then, after this kind of energy build up, it triggers a discharge. Now, have a little bit of patience here because yeah, it's right here. You see that dark beam? Coming from above the clouds. This one. And this, you will believe, is from the camera, but I will show you. It's not. Let's take another camera. That was from Greece. Now this is the same thing. You see? That is the red sprite that they are talking about. This is from Spain. Beach Valbir, Alicante. Okay, let's get to the next camera. Next camera is from Rimini Beach, Italy. And we're gonna see the same thing. You see the red sprite. Now this kind of red sprite, as I told you earlier, you can see it on almost 75% of the webcams, on Skyline webcams. And as you can see, there's no storm, and it's not from the camera, because pay attention to the overall picture. Nothing is affected. It's just this red sprite appearing So this is the red sprite that they are talking about. Yeah. Furthermore, here it's something quite interesting, but I'm not sure if it's yeah, it's hard to catch. It looks like that planet that you see sometimes at the horizon. Oh, here it is. That I've told you is visible at the sunrise, before the sunrise, in on that webcam from Santa Barbara. You see? Now this shape looks like a planet at the horizon. Now why I believe this, because in my opinion, what is happening now on all these cameras with this red sprite, it's all about the interaction of energetic particles from Nibiru system with the ionosphere and atmosphere as well. So if this is the case here, it means Nibiru is very near, people. Now let's go to the next camera. Next camera, it's from Indian Well, Indian Shores, Florida. Now those happened at sunrise. Here it happens at sunset. And it's quite impressive because it covers almost the entire camera view. Now my point of view is this. This is the electrical interaction between Nibiru system energized particles of Nibiru system hitting the Earth. This will increase. Now, I do believe a geomagnetic storm will hit the Earth this year, but it will not be, as that guy from On Point Preparedness stated, because of the sun. It will be because of Nibiru system. Now, what they gonna tell you? They're gonna tell you what they told you with that transformer in New York, yeah? They're gonna tell you a transformer blew up and illuminated the night sky, make him look blue, which is not the case. The case is the opposite. And the opposite is what I believe is they continued with this chemtrailing, yeah? Now, these particles, small particles from chemtrails, interacts as well with the energetic particles coming from Nibiru. That's why we are seeing this more often, yeah? Problem is, they're gonna continue with this chemtrailing all over the planet in order to hide Nibiru. That's why I believe they replaced already the International Sun Simulator and they have a new toy now. Guys, I've been thinking. I'm gonna make a video about this because it's an interesting fact to compare what the Skyline webcams and the FAA cams caught on 22nd last month. You remember that clip from Paris when the sun was eclipsed by the Eiffel Tower, and at one point eclipsed by the elevator inside of the Eiffel Tower, yeah? Now, it's a channel called The Last Days. Now, it's a lady which is doing the same thing that I'm doing on Skyline webcams and webcams of Mexico. And that disappearance of the sun on 22nd of March, it was recorded by an FAA cam as well. So there it was another thing, the sun disappeared behind the street lamp. So I found it very interesting. I find very interesting the fact that two different cameras, yeah, one situated in France, one in Alaska, caught the same thing. Now, her explanation, I encourage you to see her clip. It's quite okay. But her explanation, I don't know, from my point of view, it's over my head. Yeah, she said our sun disappeared behind a nebula, and what disappeared there behind the street lamp and a flag, actually, because I remember, it was the International Sun Simulator. Yeah? Now this, with our sun disappearing behind the nebula in our solar system, I don't know what to tell you. I do believe this. I do believe that God is showing us signs. The end is near. There's no question about this. Now, I've been thinking, which will be the, I don't know, the most scary thing that God will do to demonstrate his power and to give a chance to the people, to lower the sun. Now in the Bible it's written this, yeah, the sun shall be turned into darkness, yeah. Now I don't believe it will be I don't know how to put this. I believe God loves humanity, yeah, because he gave us his only son, Jesus Christ, yeah, born as a man and who died as a man, yeah, and he showed us the way, yeah, and he's right. I do believe this. He is the way, the truth, and the life. Now, to give a chance to everybody. What God will do, will lower the sun, but not suddenly, in time. Why? To give a chance to people to ask for forgiveness, to do some good things. Uh, I don't know, to take care of others. Maybe to these idiots as well, yeah. I don't know. In my opinion, God gives everybody a chance, yeah. I told you, try to find that clip, the miracle from Argentina, and you're gonna see Cardinal Bergoglio, who had the chance, God gave him the chance, and he showed him, he proved him his existence with scientific facts, and he refused it, and he continued to work for the devil. So if God in his mercy gave a chance to this motherfucker Jesuit who covered all the priests committing involved in pedophilia and despicable things, and that Cardinal Dolan saying that homosexuality is not a sin, and if God give to these people, these kind of people, man, a chance, for sure it will give you a chance as well. So I've told you, don't be afraid of dying, because you can die, I don't know, if you're in a plane and that plane will crash, you can die crossing the street, hit by a car, I don't know, with a drunk driver, yeah? So don't be afraid of this. What's the drill here? The drill here is not to sell your soul. This is what I believe, people. So the signs of God's power will increase. It will be gradual, because God loves everybody and give to anyone a chance. This is the way how I'm seeing things. Now, what they are doing with that International Sun Simulator, they are trying to do, it's hiding the true size of the sun, because they don't want you to get scared, yeah, and start to think and to rethink your way of life, yeah, and turn around. Yeah, maybe, I don't know, you're a drug dealer. Okay, you can renounce. And I don't know, things like this, yeah? So this is the point here, man. They try to hide this kind of things because they want to steal your chance to get right with God, yeah? This is the main point here, man. And they work for the devil, and probably the devil, I don't know, tell them how many souls you bought for me, yeah? That's why we have LGBT agenda. That's why we have those Satanists going out in the street and place the Satan statue in what? In the name of freedom of speech, yeah? Okay. That's why we have books, Satan stories, yeah, for young kids. That's why we have transvestites reading stories in public libraries, yes. That's why, because they are paid with how many souls they can driven to Satan. Do you understand this? Because I believe Satan promised them immortality, but not as Jesus Christ show us, came as a man, live as a man, die as a man. No, they want to merge with machines, they want to live forever as robots and things like this. And they're gonna come up with this and try to convince people that this is the future of the humanity, yeah? This is bullshit. Okay, guys, God bless you.